All right. Well, after some technical difficulties, we have returned. We're
You're
back.
not doing your English
I'm not gonna do
accent
my English. You
again?
guys missed that one. We had some technical difficulties. I did this British YouTuber type intro, and we're not gonna do it again. You had to be there. You had to be there for it to work. So we're
Yes, sir. But
back. It's
anyway,
April 2nd. We're 25% done with this year. Time's flying. We're secretly depressed right now, literally crying and shaking as I record this. So
my
yeah.
daily task list is wake up, nap, self-loathe, and go back to bed. But this is episode
Yeah.
6, Robot Mentality. Welcome, welcome. We made it through the worst first quarter in stock market history. Now, I saw that headline. Is that by a point standard or is that by an
I think it's
actual percentage
by.
standard?
I'm assuming it's. I don't know. I'm assuming it's by a point standard, though. I would
Yeah,
think.
I would think so too. Because I was researching the Great Depression today. I didn't look at the price drops, but like there was one day where
Back
like
when
there
the
was like a 3 month
S&P
period
was
when
like 5. Very cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and like big stocks. It's funny just reading what happened because it's everything that's happened in history. I mean, this is a different cause, but these stocks that were so overvalued back in the day, it was like RCA, like radio communication, blah blah blah, whatever that, and like General Electric. Like these stocks were trading at like $200 back then, and there haven't been stock splits since then. That I think, don't quote me on that, but like, and then they went from like $200 to GE trading at like $10
GE,
in a
man.
year.
Yeah.
And now GE, what is GE trading at right now? It's like $6,
They're
right?
trading at. I only know this because I'm actually playing an option on GE at the moment, but they closed at like 6.95 and they're actually up pre-market, but yeah, so like 6.95, $7. They kind of hover around like 7 to 7.50 typically.
I'd love to just pull up stock charts and look at them, but I don't. That's not what this is right now. But they always do that with headlines, and like that's what's scaring everyone. Like I remember 2 years ago when I started interning at a financial advising place. It was a day in January. It must. So I guess it was January 2018, and there was a day that the market dropped like 1,100 points, and that was like I don't know what percent
What
that was
was
at the
what
time,
was
like
the
5%.
cause?
Nothing. It
That
was
just
just like it was
happened.
just like a mini correction. Like the market dropped 1,100 points in like a month and a half, or not 1,100 points, about 11% in a month and a half, and then it kind of went back up. It was like after Trump got elected and the economy was just shooting up, and then I'm sure there was some like macroeconomic event that caused it. But yeah, so the market dropped like 1,100 points, and everyone, this is the biggest drop in stock market history. It's like, well, it's the biggest point drop, but on a
Yeah,
percentage scale, it's not even
yeah.
close to anything. So
Well, we've
it's
blown
just a
that out
way
of the
for
water
flashy.
now.
We've
Yeah.
had how many 2,000 point days have we had
I think at
in the
least
last month?
2, right? I know we've had
And
2. I
I
I
know there was at
believe.
least one day. I know there was at least one day where it went up 2,000.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, it's crazy. I mean, we'll see. I still think we're definitely gonna we'll have a couple more thousand down days for sure. I don't think we'll hit 2,000 necessarily. Because I think this could be a gradual thing over the next few months. I don't think we're gonna see any crazy red because I think the majority of the news, like everybody's prepared. The worst that happens is just the virus continues to scale. There's not really anything else. I mean, besides if flipping Trump as an intensive care over this, that would be one thing. But
That'd be crazy. I had thought about that before, but not recently. I just feel like best case scenario. Obviously, best case scenario is the market doesn't dip below its low that we saw 2 weeks ago.
yeah,
But I can totally see that happening, and I'm not saying it will, but I think that if the virus, if we're only shut down, if we aren't shut down any longer than say mid-May, end of May, I think we're fine. That's just my hunch. I don't know, and I know that earnings reports are going to catch up, and yeah, people are going to miss a quarter of revenue, people, and then people are going to not have jobs for a quarter, maybe two. But I think this stimulus package we had was good enough if this only lasts 2 months. But
well,
more
yeah,
than
but
that,
okay. Well, first thing though, the stimulus package is only designed to cover 1 month, which that's the first problem. At least for the individual checks. I don't know the business, like the small business bailout money. I don't know how long that covers because it's technically the business play. The businesses are the government gave businesses money to cover employees' salaries, assuming they don't fire them, right? They have to be using it for employee salaries. I think that was actually I want to say a 3 month cover, but I'm not positive. So I don't know. So I mean, we'll see. I think you're right. The stimulus is probably it probably works well enough to cover you know 2 months, but let
That's what
me
I think. Like if this
find.
extends summer, then you look at like the reason the Great Depression was so bad, it wasn't necessarily even because of the stock market pop, but it was because of extended unemployment. And that stemmed all the way back from events set up by World War One that were causing it was kind of like setting the stage for what happened in the Great Depression in like the late 20s. And then the real depression was throughout the early 30s. Like
Yeah,
people I saw a stat today, only 3% of people were invested in the stock market in the US in 1929.
that's pretty
So
crazy.
when it crashed, like it was like the rich people that got
That
screwed.
cared, yeah. Nobody else didn't change anybody else's life, huh?
But what really ended up screwing people was that there was no central banking. So not that there was none, but like in the Midwest, especially, all these banks were just like I guess like out local banks or mom and pop banks, I guess. And then when everyone started to freak out and need to liquefy their cash, they all went to the bank and the bank couldn't cover it, and
Mhm.
that's when the disaster started.
Yeah. Which
So
I mean, the Fed has taken some serious like strives in trying to keep liquidity up, but the problem is like because they've had multiple times like injecting 1.5 trillion and they did 500 billion into liquid markets, like say money markets, right? And then they've done
yep,
a lot on the back end too to basically bail out banks, which we've talked about bailouts. We don't need to necessarily get back into that, but the whole bank the whole bank bailout thing, banks get bailed out every time we hit a recession. That's such a backward cycle. Like that's a problem, but we don't have to get into that. But
it's just
um,
crazy because the opposite of that is what happened in the Great Depression. Because like, okay, so banks get bailed out. Yeah, it's not good because they're not practicing ethical business practices, and that's I wouldn't necessarily even say that, but they're not being smart, so that's why they're going bankrupt or they're focused too much on expansion. But in the Great Depression, they didn't. The government didn't give anyone money. So like when the stock market shrunk, money shrunk. Like there was a way lower supply of money, so then people can't pay employees, and then nobody can spend money in the economy, and there was extreme deflation, which is
yeah.
way worse than extreme inflation, or at least
I
moderate
mean,
inflation.
is it though? Always?
Yeah, yeah, because okay, I don't want to say extreme inflation because like Venezuela, how they had their
Yeah.
whole thing, and like
They
now there's
literally
like
wipe their
dollars.
butts with
There's like
dollars.
$100 bills like floating on the street, and no
Yeah,
one even
yeah.
spends the time to pick them
Nobody
up.
bothers.
So I'm not saying that, but with deflation, it's just there's less money. Nobody has money to spend, and everything costs. I guess
Well,
I don't
I
even
don't know
know.
if you're
Yeah.
thinking about that the right way. I mean, maybe in the Great Depression's context, but right now, because deflation means the value of the dollar essentially goes up, I guess, its most basic definition. I mean, there's the amount of money we have. So, say you have X amount of dollar bills in existence right now, or theoretically, right? I mean, if
hmm
deflation happens, everybody's money's worth more, which that has its own problems, but
The
I don't.
problem was deflation happened because nobody had money.
Okay. Yeah, well, that I
So
guess
like
that's a
it's
little
worth
different.
more because literally it all got lost, like in stock
Yeah.
market
Okay.
losses and the bank like literally not
Because if,
having
if
the money that
deflation
people
happened right
deposited.
now, that's essentially what the government wants is to try to deflate the dollar as much as possible at the moment to increase
I
the
mean,
value of the
that's
dollar.
in a sense that's why they put negative rates, which is
Well, that's
I
the
don't
point of negative rates, but
not in
at
the
the same
economy.
time, the Fed is absolutely printing cash right now, which long term will massively affect inflation. It's just a band-aid for the current time. So it's a
Yeah.
weird equation they're playing, but
I don't think anyone wants deflation. Here, so Google says, I don't even know where, oh, this is
Google
from
says,
Investopedia. Why is deflation bad? A little bit of inflation is good for economic growth, around 2 to 3% a year. But when prices begin to fall after an economic downturn, deflation may set in causing an event, an even deeper and more severe crisis. As prices fall, production slows and inventories are liquidated. Demand drops and unemployment increases. So basically, it just means there's no money to sustain purchases, so that's why inventories go up, and then people got to get rid of them, and it's just a disaster. So you and I were talking, like a week ago, and you were saying like you were wondering how this compared to other crises. So it just made me curious how it compared to like the crisis of all time, that is the Great Depression. and we're very far off of that, in my opinion. You there, buddy?
Oh, can you not hear? Oh gosh, I was talking the whole time. I'm sorry.
You're muted.
Um,
Oh,
yeah, I mean, I don't. I think we're pretty far off the Great Depression for sure, but I don't think we're that far off '08. I think '08 is a very achievable thing at this point. But again, this is contingent on when a cure happens, because if a cure, how it's been broken down, every country that's quote unquote gotten over their curve, right? So say South Korea, say China, and China shouldn't even be mentioned, but I'll talk about last week's news cycle than this week's. Okay. So what happens with the coronavirus? If there's not a cure, it keeps spreading no matter what. You can get it down to where it's only X amount of people that have it, but right when you reopen your economy, it inevitably spreads. It just takes it from going to one person to another. That person infects two, those two infect four. It scales quickly as we've seen. Okay. So the problem is you get hit with I use this analogy of an earthquake and aftershocks. Okay, so we'll call this in the U.S. our initial earthquake, right? So say we peak at, I mean, I'm just throwing a number out there. I have no clue if this could be feasible, but we'll say 2 million cases at some point. Okay, so once we get that down to a minimal amount of numbers, or a minimal amount of cases, and we reopen the economy, it just happens again. It won't peak at the same amount. It will peak slightly less. So maybe you say 1.2 million. You shut that down. Everybody goes back to normal life. It starts again. You get up to 700,000. I mean, eventually it will kind of go away, but because once you get healed from this, once you recover from this, you recover. You can't get it again. You have the
yeah.
antibodies in your blood. It's like other viruses. Okay. Um, and a lot of people will die along the way, obviously, if that's how we do this. But inevitably, it keeps getting smaller because either people are healed or they're dead. So there's less people to infect, right? So, I mean, I don't think unless there's a cure, which there's no sign that we have a cure right now. Like I totally, if there's a cure tomorrow, that'd be amazing. That's what we all want. Um, but even with the government slashing on the FDA regulations to get these companies just like pumping out tests and clinical studies and everything, I mean, there's not really a cure in sight at the moment at all. So there's no reason to expect a cure should be found anytime soon. So I mean, this could prolong much longer than people want to say it will. But I mean, I obviously hope it doesn't. But even as we've seen in the last 3 weeks, I mean, unemployment's already gotten so large in so few days. So I guess here's a chart from a couple days ago. And I actually have it up on my stream if you want to go in and look, but or I think I can send this to you. Let me just send the link real quick. I'll put it in Discord for you. And this is from Vox. I'm sorry, I don't know. I saw this chart all over CNBC today, the same one, but um,
Wow.
I mean, this is insane, and this is just the start of it too. We're really only a good week and a half in on like true unemployment. These are just the filings. These aren't even the true numbers yet.
Yeah,
So
that's
last week we're
insane.
at 3.3, and we literally doubled in a week span. So um, today we got these numbers, right? It lags behind on the filings. Tomorrow we get March's who collected unemployment, like who actually got paid unemployment in March. Those numbers come out tomorrow. That's why a lot of people are betting against the market tomorrow. But I mean, this will scale much faster than people think because our situation's so unique. It's different in other kind of recessions we've had where people are getting laid off or fired or
Over
furloughed or
time.
whatever over time. Well, one, it's over time, and two, it's because a company will say doesn't have money, right, to keep people on, which you could say that's similar now, but a lot, at least in the present moment, a lot of companies, there are plenty of successful companies that have to lay off people right now, like perfectly fine companies, because it's about the virus. It's not about, oh, we don't have money to pay you, which in a few weeks maybe they won't, if their business is shutting down. But it's literally like you can't have people around each other. So unemployment, I mean, at 2 weeks from now, this number is easily going to be like 20 million, easily. And that blows everything
Yeah.
out of the water we've ever had. And that
I'm
you get into the territory where people really start losing things really quickly and it gets really messy. And that all ends up snowballing back to businesses, back to GDP, back to deflation. Is I mean, I don't know how. I guess if they print enough money, then we can't deflate, but it all snowballs very quickly.
My thoughts on that is we can have all the unemployment in the world, and if it's over 3 months later by June 28th and everyone's back to work, I think we're fine.
But the thing
And
is, oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think we're gonna be back by June 28th because the aftershocks you're thinking of, you're correct in that. But once we open up the economy again to go, businesses need to make money. People want to go to work to make money. People are going to be stir crazy to go spend money at a business. Once we're going, the sickness is obsolete in my opinion. I don't think we're going to be getting headlines. Maybe we'll get headlines, oh, cases are rising again. Well, we're not going to shut down again. So I think once that's why it's so important when they open the doors. They should really feel like if you do have a big aftershock, that you have the hospital space to recover and get enough people in it. So I think that's why they're going to be so cautious with it. But once this economy opens up again, I think it's going to be roaring because we were one of the last countries to have it too. We're one of the only we're the only economy in the West that matters. Is that correct? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say.
So
Canadians
it
gonna
got to
cry at
us.
that one, but
Yeah, go Canada. Um, Yeah, so I think that's just my take on it. But if somehow this does drag out to June, July, then I think we're probably kind of screwed because once you start missing more than a quarter of earnings, that gets freaky, and people can live for a month without income. So 1 month they made it without income, 1 month they're going to get a stimulus check, and they're talking about doing a second round of stimulus checks. So, in my opinion, if we're back and running by June, we're good. If not, we're in some serious trouble.
so a couple things to add to that. So the stimulus check should help, right? Theoretically should. But
Hmm.
like what got reported today, information that a Democratic senator, I believe, put out, um, these stimulus checks, I don't know how they screwed it up so badly or what the point of the stimulus check was, but they're saying it's going to take, it was like 2 to 8 weeks on the long end to get, no, it was more than that. It was like 2 to 12 weeks is the range to get these checks out to people. So if you're the person that doesn't get your damn check for 12 weeks, then what did it really help you? You're already, if you're barely scraping by, you're already out of your house at that point. So
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't know how the government's going to help with like foreclose. Like, did they announce anything in the stim? I should have checked this. If
people
they
have been,
announced in the stimulus
well,
bill,
I don't think there is as of now. I think there was some sort of intention to somehow pause mortgages and renters and everything, but
that just can't happen
that
though.
but the thing is if that happens, it just goes up the scale. It ends up screwing over the lenders, and the lenders, how many people do they have money out to, and then the lenders go out of business, and then
Well, it's not even the lenders because the lenders sell those mortgages to investors. So that makes another entire secondary
yeah.
market, and that's when you get into a housing crisis, like when all
Well,
these
that's
debt obligations
yeah.
crashed in 2008. So that would open up a new can of worms.
And then secondly, I wanted to add, so I look, I we will have a boom, and maybe it's not a soaring new high type of boom, but we'll rebound at least in the market to where we were pretty quickly. Okay, when we reopen. I mean, it'll be fast. We'll definitely have some record days for sure of being up. But the problem is just from, for example, how many businesses have already asked for bailouts? Okay, like every
Most
big
of them,
corporation.
yeah.
The amount of businesses that are seriously in jeopardy of going out of business within the month already puts so many people permanently out of jobs, even when we reopen, and that's part of the issue. I mean, I guess your main target you could say is permanent retail, but Macy's before this is already a trash company, and they're gonna be trashed after this. J.C. Penney, who employs I think it's like 100,000 people or something like that. Um, J.C. Penney's gonna go out of business if this goes till the middle of May. They'll be out of business. They'll close their doors. I mean, you really got. There's big companies that are gonna put a lot of people out of jobs. So, and you got to think too, when a company's not making money and they already fired a ton of people, even when they get booming again, it takes time to re-add jobs. It's not like they fired 100 or immediately going to post 100 jobs when they get through this. So, it has some serious effects very quickly. And I mean, you could even say positivity in the market doesn't help the unemployment case. The market really doesn't matter on this end. So, I mean, my whole family filed for unemployment, so we're all pretty screwed at the moment.
I mean, yeah, you should. If you're unemployed through this, you
Yeah.
absolutely should. I mean, if the government's helping. One thing you said that you think the market will climb back to where it was initially. I agree
Over
with that.
time, I mean, I think it'll be somewhat quick, but obviously over time. I'm not saying it happens in 2 days, but
Right. In our case, robot mentality, Gen Z take over the world. Stay invested. It's gonna go higher, and we're gonna be fine. But like, if you, I have a chart pulled up right now of the Dow Jones, but you know the dot com bubble in like 2000.
yeah, yeah.
So that broke off pretty hard. So basically, from the high there, that was in 1999 when it kind of crashed, and then it had the 2008 crash again. In 2007, it got above what it was before the dot com crash, but then it didn't hit where the dot com crash was until 2011. So that's like 12 years that it took for it to get to even to its high again and start
Gotcha.
climbing above
Yeah.
it. So like it could,
Yeah, it
I could
could be.
see, and like, Warren Buffett and guys like that who are like, he's a value investor and he looks at what companies are worth on their price times earnings or their price earnings ratio. And these tech companies that we see, like, they're valued so high. Like AMD, they've taken a huge hit already, but AMD, its price earnings is like 150 still, and that was like the price earnings of companies in the dot com bubble where they burst. And I know AMD has something to them, and people are pricing that in, but like stocks are still valued very high even at
Yeah.
this
Well, that's why Warren
rate.
Buffett says we're not even at the bottom still.
I,
He wasn't even dollar averaging till like a week ago.
I was wondering what he was. I didn't know he was speaking on this.
Yeah,
I
he's been
haven't heard
speaking
from
on
him.
it a little bit. I've only seen bits and pieces, but for a while, pretty much through all the big down days and stuff, he was holding off on buying. At least he said he was.
Yeah, like I would not be
What's
shocked
funny
if
is
we
with
went
the
to
so
15.
Berkshire, I think they have like 130 something billion cash on hand. He's gonna wait till it gets low enough to legitimately buy out like 10 massive corporations, like just straight up buy them out.
He could. I mean,
He really
what's the
could.
point of that if you're Warren Buffett though? Just for the sake of Berkshire Hathaway, and
Well,
then
but that's already what Berkshire does, is they buy companies out. That's the whole gig.
who? What's like a high end?
I mean, Kraft
Like
Heinz
what's
was one. That one kind of was a disaster. That's like the biggest name as of late. It was like 2017. It was it was Buffett, I mean Berkshire, and then a bunch of different what do you call those companies? Um, something Capital. I can't think of the name.
not venture
Venture
capital?
Cap. Yeah, it was Buffett
Okay.
and a couple. It was like five other venture capitalists.
Is that okay?
That's
So
literally their
is
gig,
that a
though.
secret? When they do that, like when you, because basically it's a hostile takeover then of a company. Maybe
Yeah.
it's not hostile, but like you take more than
By
50% ownership.
definition, yeah, it's kind of a hostile takeover. But
Is that like a covert operation between like like those big investors, and then they are all like, oh, we're on a team now? Like I
yeah,
don't.
yeah. Well, in Buffett's case, when they plan on buying somebody out, I mean, they all have. I'm assuming they're in a bunch of contracts already. But yeah, they work together. They put the money together, and then that's the immediate management team.
You'd think someone would be able to track like holdings and see that there's potential for that happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I know.
I mean, there's a lot. Okay, just for reference, right now. So this is what Buffett's a fraction of Berkshire's money could buy. Macy's, their market cap, they just got booted off the S&P because they're now a small cap because they've gotten hit so hard. Um, I think their market cap's barely over $1 billion right now. Berkshire has 130 billion in cash on hand. I mean, he could buy out Macy's, which is one of the biggest retailers there's ever been, right now if he felt like it.
Hmm.
I mean, for half that too, you got to assume you just have to buy
Right, yeah.
50% of the shares or
If they're
51.
out there.
Yeah, which plenty of people would be happy to sell Macy's right now if he could drive the price up, people would sell it. But
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't
so
know. Yeah, I don't know enough about that to speak on that. That's something I should
yeah, I
look
mean, I
up.
don't know the exact details, but that's essentially how it works. It's not like you go and negotiate always with a public company. I'm pretty sure it's usually just a straight buyout. But one news line just relating to this, Xerox was trying to buy out HP, and due to recent things, they just pulled out. They were planning a hostile takeover. I was reading about that yesterday. But so HP is probably pretty happy about that one, even though their company's probably getting just drilled right now like everybody else. But
Yeah, everyone's gonna use this time to go paperless. That's what I'm doing in
yeah.
my job.
But I mean, I got these talking points, just kind of why I think this is definitely going to be worse than '08. And what people have to realize too is no matter your opinion on how the market rebounds, well, maybe not no matter, but I guess I'll say in general, like we aren't, if we're already in a recession, anybody that's going to deny that, I mean, what's the definition of recession when you GDP decreases for 2 quarters, right?
Yes.
That's going to happen. The GDP projections for the year are already cut in half, so it's going to happen. Some analysts say less than half. I don't know what the exact percentage number is offhand, but I mean, there's just so many things that make this situation unique, and there's only so much the government can do. And of course, just like the stimulus bill, the government already half-assed it. They didn't do a good job with it. So I don't know how much faith we should have in the government from doing anything in the first place. But I guess I'll just read off what I have, and this isn't even really all the points. It's just what came to head in like 2 minutes of writing. But one, we already talked about Treasury bills below 0%. Well, first they hit 0% for the first time in our history, and then we hit negative, which we're one of only at least 3 countries I know of that have negative Treasury bills, which would be Greece is currently negative, Japan is currently negative, and then us. I don't know of any others. Um, but just from a perspective standpoint, okay? From the government's perspective, what a negative interest rate on the Treasury means is the government is betting on the dollar deflating and they're betting on decreased GDP, which both those are kind of a given. Because they don't want you, literally saying a negative interest rate is we don't want you to buy Treasury bills. We want you to inject money into the market if you plan on investing. It's to get people to buy equities to try to keep the market afloat. That's the whole point.
Right.
Two is like we just said, GDP 2020 projections are absolutely hammered. You could probably pull that up on CNBC. I can look actually. Sorry,
Gross
folks, I should have
domestic
had this
product.
up.
Our GDP is $19.4 trillion in 2017. China's is 12 trillion. I don't know why. I
Yeah,
feel
I
like
don't
I would have
know.
thought China was bigger.
China's economy is odd, man, but that's another that's
They
another
could be
story. So, I
hiding
mean,
half of
GDP
it.
is already hammered. We're already in a recession. This will be a recession, no matter what anybody wants to say. This is going to be a recession. I'm not, maybe it's a short one, maybe it's an insane one, but this is a recession. Like three, and these are in no specific order, just when they came to my head, but the government, which has really been trying to stay positive this whole time, you can watch Trump's press conference every day, and his team of doctors and him are telling you this is going to be fine every single day. And to an extent, they need to do that,
They have to do
right?
that.
You have to do that. So I'm not necessarily blaming them for that. But, I mean, now they're, even on their positive spin, as of what was it, Sunday night, their most positive outlook of this thing is 100K to 240K deaths in the next 2 weeks, is what they said. That's insane. Like, that's
So their
absolutely
worst case
crazy.
scenario
That's their
outlook
best
is
case
1%.
scenario.
Well, worst case scenario, I would consider the 240, and
Well,
that's like
yeah,
a little
yeah,
less than 1% of
yeah.
the U.S. population.
No. 240K is a minimal percentage. We're like 314 million is our population.
When 300K divided by 300 mil, 1%.
No, that'd be a lot lower than 1%.
Oh wait, yeah, I did that wrong. Here we go.
Yeah, missing a zero.
It's a tenth of a percent.
Yeah. So I mean, in retrospect, is that a low number? Percentage wise, yes. But when you actually talk about 100,000 people on the low end dying, that's a very high number. Um, Fourth, Trump using wartime executive actions to get ventilators is very much showing desperation. And again, he has to do it. I don't blame him for it. He should do it. Like, forcing. I mean, so these companies, I think he only technically forced GM to do it. I think Ford and Tesla were kind of willing because I guess they want any government contract they can get. But um, that's just something that shows the desperation right now, and we don't have the supplies. Which, ironically enough, I was reading something this morning. The amount of like ventilators and masks and everything we've sold, like private businesses or public businesses have sold to China in the past 2 weeks is disgusting. I mean, you can't really stop them from doing that, but considering we're in such a bind for all the supplies, it's really a bad thing. And I was
That's
reading
pretty
something
bad.
too. Before China got bad, they pretty much bought up a lot of the world's supplies from pretty much every major economy, which is just weird to think about. But that's some. I mean, you can't really track that. The government shouldn't be tracking that, but that should have told you right there that that China knew this was way worse than they first came out with. Okay, next we have the stay-at-home orders are growing. It's either Virginia or West Virginia is already locked down to the end of May. Florida is the start of June. Toronto, which is Canada, but it's still relevant to some of our stuff. Toronto said you got to stay in your house at the end of June. And I add as a note here, I guess if you're kind of looking at bigger picture, just maybe major streams of revenue and economic factors as effects from an entertainment standpoint, I mean, the MLB already said they won't start the season while any cities are shut down. So that already rules out the MLB starting till end of June, unless they change their stance on it. Um, Sports leagues, I know this really makes such a small piece of the puzzle to the economy, but sports leagues, you're thinking of all the hotels, all the travel, all the people paying for tickets. I mean, the TV, the viewership it generates, NBA, NFL, MLB, all of it, those are going to be really affected. So, okay, that one's not as necessarily as major, but these stay home orders, if there's no cure by those times, they're only getting extended. If you're locked in your house, you're not like the economy at its core level is just based on transactions happening. That's the most basic explanation of an economy.
Money
You're
moving.
either buying financial assets, you're buying goods, you're buying services. That's it. Money movement. Um, so we're in a serious predicament there, and even people saying 2 quarters of skewed revenue from businesses could be. I mean, it could be more than that. It really could be. It's all contingent on when this cure comes. Okay, we'll go off that one, and you can rebut these as we go, because I have a couple more. Do you have any thoughts thus far? I'm about halfway through my list.
I mean, I have, but like,
You want me to finish first, or?
sure. I mean, yeah, I'll interject. But the one thing I don't think a cure matters at all.
Well,
I think this just has to run its course.
well, but if it runs its course, the amount of people that die is just going to be insane, and that has economic stipulations in and of itself.
I just don't. Viruses don't have cures. I don't get how we're gonna find a cure to this.
Well,
And I know
it's
that
in the
probably
realm of
sounds very
possibilities.
ignorant.
I mean, I mean, you're
They're
essentially right. Like,
expediting,
there's still no quote unquote cure for like the common flu. So, I mean, you're right to an extent.
they're expediting vaccines faster than ever, and human
Well,
testing
the
will
the
start
thing
in
is, a
September.
vaccine isn't a cure either. A vaccine's a prevention. It's not a. So that's the
So that's why
problem with
we're
that.
wasting our time with a cure. Like, what's the point of?
Well, they're working on therapies too, but like
Oh,
the
you're saying a cure once you
no,
have
I
it.
mean a true way that you can 99% of the time cure somebody that has it. That's what I mean. A
Yeah.
vaccine is more of a secondary thing we'll need as a prevention, but which apparently there's a lot of promise to people that have survived coronavirus taking antibodies from their blood and injecting into somebody else, right?
Hmm.
Apparently that's working well. At this point, if I had coronavirus, I'd say just inject me with somebody else's blood. I would not care. If I thought I was gonna die, I'd just say just do it. Use it for the trial data, anyways. Okay, so moving on. Pretty much, and I'll add today's news to the end of this, but the government and the Fed, they really don't have any bullets left besides just straight up printing money. And that has its own problems with the economy. You can only print so much money. I mean, the inflation that should be created long term on this is already astronomical. It's just disgusting. Um, it just furthers the bubble we're in. If we somehow come out of this barely, touched, I, the bubble's only inflating more. I'll
Well,
add today. I didn't think we had any more bullets. Trump's bullet today was saying, Russia and Saudi had an agreement in their oil war to not be dumping as much. So you can go ahead.
it was just a quick thought I had on inflation. If our GDP is about $20 million a year, that means that in a year we produce $20 trillion.
Yeah.
So if you have 2 months of non-existent, or maybe let's just say even half, half of your production is gone. That's about $2 million, like 1 excuse me, about $1.8 trillion, and that's about what the stimulus package was. So I don't necessarily know that a $2 trillion stimulus package here sets us up for extreme inflation if we do have this shutdown that
But
we're
it's so
talking.
much more than that because there were already bailouts before the $2 trillion stimulus. We're already talking another stimulus package. We're already talking an infrastructure package, which is supposed to be two trillion. We already put 1.5 trillion into the markets. We already put another 500 billion into the markets. And there's more money than that. Just unemployment right now is at record numbers that they're paying out, and that's not money they have.
Yeah, you just double counted there though, the 1.5 and the 500 billion. That's
No, it
that's
was
two
two separate.
trillion.
Well, no. That was long before any stimulus. That was the first days the market went down. That was completely unrelated. Those are separate numbers.
You're talking they added T-bills?
Yeah. No. Well, how somebody explained it to me, I asked somebody at work. It's money that essentially goes straight to banks and money markets to keep liquidity up. So it's essentially a bailout, just not a textbook bailout. So we had the 1.5 trillion first. A couple days later, we had the 500 trillion or 500 billion. So that's 2 trillion right there. Then we have this current stimulus package, 2 trillion. We have undoubtedly there's going to be more packages. So we'll estimate another 5 trillion in packages. Okay. And then there were separate bailouts before that, smaller ones. So the amount of money we're in already is crazy. And then once you add unemployment, which is going to scale, it's going to scale faster than the flipping virus spreading itself. I mean, if you're really paying people money, it's going to be astronomical the amount of money that's going to be printed over this.
Well, if you just listen to Jim Cramer, we should have done triple the
True.
size of the stimulus package.
Jim
Six
Cramer.
trillion, $6 trillion.
Jim Cramer is such an idiot, dude.
I
The
like
other day,
Domino's pizza right now.
so Johnson Johnson got some contract. I don't know if it was a ventilator or a testing kit or a vaccine or something, but I think they secured some contract from the government, like for an exclusive testing right to something. I don't know, something along those lines. So Johnson Johnson was up like I think it was like 25% that day. This might have been Monday or last Friday or everything's a blur right now, but literally the next day, after they were up 25%, Jim Cramer goes on CNBC that morning and is telling people to buy into Johnson Johnson. I'm like, are you a retard? Like, what is wrong with you, man? Like, people that like literally shadow trade off Jim Cramer, there has to be something wrong with them. That dude, there's no way that dude makes as much money as he claims he does.
I don't
He
know.
has
I
he
think
I guarantee he hires a bunch of hedge fund managers to manage his money for him, then he goes and BS's on his show.
probably does. Like once things become news, you've already missed any sort of
Yeah.
upside you're gonna
Yeah.
get from that news. You gotta. I heard you should trade on rumors and sell on
Insider
news,
trade
which
info too,
you know
right connections. No, I'm
that's
joking.
the
I'm
stuff. So
joking. If
there
the
is so
SEC is
much.
listening, that was totally a joke.
This is not financial advice, by the
Yeah,
way.
this is
Anyone
not.
listening, this is
Okay,
simply robot
um,
mentality.
that's true. Yeah, insider trading is the robot mentality. That's how we do it.
Should we shift gears?
Okay, well let me just knock off my other points. We'll go through them really quick. Okay, unemployment we already talked about. It's going to reach by far all-time highs, shattering anything we've ever seen. By far. Okay, and there's a strong correlation, which this is just how long the shutdown is. I mean, I honestly think this. Well, first off, the suicide and crime rate are going to jump. That happens anytime you're in any sort of economic downturn in any country ever. I mean, sadly, with people being stuck in their houses, I think the suicide rate's going to moon. If this lasts 3 more months, the suicide rate's going to moon to something we haven't seen before in this country, and that's very sad. But it's bound to happen. Um, so that has such an effect on the economy that we can't even gauge yet. But we already kind of covered this. Most companies will miss at least 2 quarters of earnings. And like that Jordan Peterson video I linked to you, I don't know if you had a chance to watch it, but
Yeah, I watched it.
that proves a management psychological shift in the company when that happens. That's when you see turnover in executives, mindsets are changed. It's more about making money. It's less about pleasing the customer, and that has its own problems. So you could see solid businesses end up falling over that have never had to experience this. we've talked about this as well, but multiple corporations may legitimately go out of business. It's only a matter of time. I'd say the immediate ones are physical brick and mortar retail, and I'd say another big industry, at least I think, are cinemas. Are really risk just straight up being done. So next we have, and this is more of a scary, it's kind of a scary type of thing, but people say this is only the boomer disease, and that's true that it mostly appeals to that age group. But right now, 1 in 5 hospitalizations in New York City are 44 years old or younger. So, take that as what you want, but it's not necessarily just old people that are affected. And also, something came out, I think it was the New York Post a couple days ago, that they're seeing even people that heal are having. Um, so this basically affects your neurosystem. Um, and it's giving people already multiple brain issues. Like people are having, even that have recovered, like random seizures or different, just brain issues, memory loss, like just random things, which is scary. That could be unrelated, but it is freaky. Okay, next, and this is a stat that I saw. I think it was on CNBC not too long ago. Over 40% of Americans say they cannot afford to pay their bills for 2 months. So I mean, people are going to be losing houses, losing cars pretty quickly. And then last, which I had more points to this, I just can't think of them offhand, but this was proven. This came out the other day, and sadly, like places like CNN are still white knighting Chinese propaganda, but China's concealed this all along, and they're concealing their current real numbers. They were concealing it from the start. Um, the dude who blew the whistle in China on this coronavirus thing that first broke the news disappeared a few days later. He undoubtedly got tortured and killed, as they do to every animal they see there and a lot of their citizens. Um, Doctors tried to speak about it in December. There are multiple doctors that have spoken out saying, hey, we were completely concealed by the government back in December when this first started. They wouldn't let us say anything. They wouldn't let us release our testings to the world to actually, prevent, right? Those people got killed. Multiple doctors have already died, um, killed by the Chinese government. Very cool. Um, and it was like 2 weeks ago, they said there were 0 cases. The coronavirus was done in China. And U.S. intelligence a couple days ago finds that that was completely fake, and their numbers are still super high. They don't have it under control. And what's funny is the news stations are still saying, "Oh, that's just Trump trying to cover his ass." Like that's so stupid. China, it is proven 100% fact that China had concealed this from the start. No matter who's in office in what country, it's not necessarily a Trump thing because the world was not ready for this. Every major economy in the world has been hammered over this, okay? In real countries. US, I mean, probably a lot of Europe, a lot of developed Asia. I mean, it's crazy. And the thing is too that if China came out day one and said, "Hey, every country in the world start stockpiling masks, start building hospitals. This can be a real thing. We can't contain it. We need help." We wouldn't be going through this right now if that was the case. It would be a lot more under control. So anybody defending China, they just don't get China. If you look into China for an hour on the internet, China is the biggest threat to the planet we have. Like I genuinely believe before my lifetime's over, we will have a war with China. I think that's a given. But okay, that completes my list for that. So any thoughts?
Phew.
That was a lot.
That was a freaking monologue from hell. Well done, though. There's just a lot to this, and
There's so many things to this, and that's why it's. I'm trying not to think about it because I'm not the type of dude to kind of live in fear. But there's so many moving parts at once right now that it's actually crazy.
it's just my
And
thing is more. I'm wondering when it's gonna hit its bottom so I can make money, and
yeah,
that sounds bad the way I just said it, but like everything recovers, like everywhere we've hit. So like trying to buy a house as an investment
yeah,
property.
yeah.
Like when should I do that? Should I be looking now when less buyers are out there? Or should I be doing it in 4 months because there's going to be foreclosures
There's
and
gonna be
way
a
better
lot
deals?
of foreclosures very quickly. So I mean,
Yeah,
I
you think
personally would
that? I
wait.
mean, you
There
might be
will be.
wrong.
I don't think I'll be
You
wrong at all.
you've said you said the market was going to tank in the last 2 weeks, and it's gone up pretty much every day too.
I changed my opinion after last week though. I said it's more of a long term
Yeah.
thing. Well, no, I know, but the thing is, the market should have been down. We drew out a stimulus package that gave people hope, and we have all these stupid hope things, but we're literally out of bullets at this point. And today would have been massively down if Trump didn't come out interday and say, "Hey, this oil war's over. Everybody buy oil," and everybody started buying, flipping ExxonMobil and Chevron all day, driving everything up.
You're
But
you're
I would,
expecting the
I would.
government and the market to be too kind and honest and straightforward. Like
Well,
there's
what I was saying though is, and I am going to interrupt here because I have to clarify this. the the market in the near term responds to news. It responds to positivity. It responds to fear. Okay, fundamentals are not priced in, and everything we talked about this list are not priced in for the long term at all, and the potential growing severity of everything we talked about in this list. If we will be lower than we are right now, May 2nd. That is an absolute given. Even if it's one
I
point, we will be lower May 2nd.
well, we'll come back and check. And I'm definitely not saying you're wrong. And I
I will
never said
bet
you were
my
wrong.
left testicle on
So
this.
you get very confident on your opinions, and you've been wrong. That's all I want to
Yes, I
say.
have been wrong the past few weeks, but also because I had money on the line, the stimulus week where the vote was supposed to happen the Friday before this week. Okay, vote was supposed to happen then through the Senate, and then they said that Monday the House would vote. Right, the Senate vote got drawn out to the next Wednesday. The House vote got drawn into the end of the next Friday, and it was all a market ploy, by the way, because they knew it would keep the markets up, but. Maybe I could have been completely wrong and there would have been no serious crash, but the market would have been down that week. It's the government's doing everything they can from every angle to keep any sort of positivity in the market that they can, and I don't blame them for it. It's just kind of stupid because you just kind of need to pop the bubble so you could just move on, but
Well, I mean,
because you only inflate the bubble and then the hit's only worse.
I disagree with you saying that fundamentals haven't been factored into this yet. And with the growth that we saw, we were okay, definitely due for a correction, whatever. So down 10%. So now we're down. What's the market down right now in total? Is it like
I don't
20,
know.
20%? It started at 29, now it's at about 22. So it's a little over 20%. It's about 23. But what fundamentals, like when you invest in a company, you're not investing in them for their next 4 quarters of earnings. You're investing in their like long-term success. So say
But
you're
four
investing in
quarters
a
have such an
company's
impact. Go on. I know I'm
you're investing
interrupting,
in a
but it's
company's
necessary.
5 year financials. Um, two core obviously, yeah. Like if the company's going to go bankrupt because there's expenses that they're not going to be able to afford, but when everyone stops working in a sense like this, like it just stops. Like I don't think this isn't just like some big downturn of terrible events happening over and over that's transpiring into one another, and it could, but it's not to that point yet.
It's pretty damn close.
We'll see if we're back
But
and running by
okay,
June.
let's just go back to the one point of 40% of people say they can't pay 2 months' bills. Okay, the government can't help people on their bills for forever. We may have a 1 month coverage, but if that 1,200 actually covers your bills, depending on what debt you're in, one we literally, and that's why people aren't thinking about this in the right context. The Great Depression, yeah, it was terrible, massive unemployment, tons of problems around it. Okay, but we still had at least an economy. You could go outside, and if you had money, you could spend it. And the recession, same thing. But they're literally at a core level. There are not transactions happening. There's like literally is no economy. And an economy at a halt doesn't relate to people's bills being at a halt. Once people lose their jobs, once people lose their houses, once people lose everything they have, which could very well happen depending on how long this goes on, when the economy reopens, they don't have anything to go spend. They're going to be putting their money towards trying to just find a roof at that point. And it's sad we get ourselves in this situation because of the American mindset. It's disgusting that 40% of people don't have money to cover a month and a half's worth of bills. But
Yeah,
I
isn't
mean,
that
the
crazy? Like
situation is so unique that people don't. I'm not talking about you here, but like you could say even Kramer, people don't acknowledge that there's a lot of uniqueness to the situation that the world hasn't seen in general for any economy ever.
I think a lot
Besides,
of
I
it
mean,
is
besides
due
like a
to
wartime economy, maybe, but
how large we've been living in the last decade because we've seen nothing but growth and prosperity for the most part. And people get sucked in. I mean, businesses do the same thing. They just take out more loans
yeah,
and grow.
yeah.
And that's what people think they're doing. They think they're growing themselves and looking rich and driving nice cars and having big payments and big house payments. And it's not responsible because the first piece of financial advice you're going to have from anybody is pay off your debt and get an emergency fund to be
Yeah,
able to fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses is what people usually say. And nobody, I mean, like you said, 60% of Americans can't do
I
that,
think it's
can't do 2
40.
months.
Yeah, 40. Yeah.
I would think it's even more, but
Yeah,
maybe
I agree with you. I'm just saying the thing I saw, but
yeah, and it's just like, and it gets tricky once you have family. Like, if you have a 4-person family and you're living off one man, one woman's salary, um, that gets a lot tougher. So it's easy for me to say, as a 21-year-old single guy with a salary and no debt, to, oh, why can't they do this? But
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, there's some people that are set up for success off the bat, and like for me, I was blessed with lots of good opportunities, and other people are just behind the eight ball to start. Doesn't mean people can't make it out and do well for themselves, but there's it's just, a lot of people aren't set up for success, and there's not education to teach people to have success if they're not looking for it. Like
yeah,
school, they don't
yeah.
teach anything.
I
So
mean,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. And we can get off this topic fairly soon, but like I said, I will bet my left testicle that this gets prolonged, and it is worse than projections are saying. There are a couple actual hedge fund managers that I've read about that are actually being transparent about this and kind of having my viewpoint. But most people, especially the ones driving the media, they want to create the fear, but then they want to tell you the market's fine at the same time, and that doesn't mix. So it's a giant bubble, and people. And what's funny though too is, I mean, you made a point that a lot of this was priced in already. Last week when we had record unemployment filings for that week, which I guess the number, if we go back to this chart, was 3.3
It's
million
because it
filings
doesn't
for weekly.
matter.
But how does it not matter?
We know people are unemployed. Like that was already priced in. We knew people were gonna have
Well, the
jobs. Like everyone
projections
knew
weren't
what to
anything near
expect.
that, yet the market boosted like 300 points that day. The projections were on the high end 2 million. You beat it by
It does
50% or more
either
than
way. Like
50%.
I don't think it makes a difference if 50 million people are unemployed or 10 million people.
How is it not though?
Because people are going to be on, like, people right now, maybe the market's banking that we'll be back and booming in June. That's what it's banking on. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if everything's shut down and then everything's back in 2 months, people can cover that, or the government's going to cover their expenses for a month or two. Like, we're fine if that happens. It's when it's more
Okay,
than
no,
that.
but that's the
It's when we
problem.
get news that it's going to be longer than what we're expecting. Is this June, May target date? Once we get
It's
that news, that's when the economy's when the stock market will tank, and I'm
Well, the
aware that that could
government's already
happen.
said that the optimistic viewpoint of returning to a normal economy is the middle of June. That's the optimistic end of being back to normal.
But that's not what's making headlines. I haven't even seen that. I've
You can
seen
go back and
Trump
find
pushes it
Trump
back to
saying
April
that from
30th.
like 2 weeks ago. The problem
Yeah,
is,
but no
okay,
one's
okay,
looking at
the
that.
unemployment does matter though, very much, because people think, oh, the government covers their bills. Well, the government covering their bills, that's inflation, that's printing money. One, okay. Two, you don't get the checks out fast enough to people. Like I think my dad filed for unemployment, and you don't even get a payment for like 3 weeks. So
Well,
if you
dude, if
can't
you're
pay in
two
that
weeks late
gap,
on your rent payment, you're just gonna pay your rent 2 weeks late. It's not gonna like people aren't gonna go
but okay,
collecting.
no, no, but what does that do to? There's plenty of people that own property on such a low margin and lenders that don't have money right now. It scales all the way up, and it's all contingent on the time it. Like people only say, oh, the unemployment, the government can cover it. They'll get their jobs back. One, a lot of these people will not get their jobs back, and two, it goes so far up the chain of who owes what money to who. Plus, then you factor in inflation, and it's such a unique mess, and that's why the Kramer mindset on this just pisses me off right now. But
Well, he's all buy, buy, buy. Nobody knows anything. Anyone with strong opinions and that says that they're right, they're so full of themselves. It's unbelievable. Because no one ever knows what's going to happen. Like the best investors say that. Like I don't know what's going to happen May 2nd.
I mean,
You shouldn't be saying you know what's going to happen May
it's
2nd.
not that I am predicting doomsday, but people are not valuing unemployment for what it should be employed. You can go back to any definition of economy, and we don't have one right now. And halting an economy does you can't halt the whole economy. There's still people that have to have money, have to owe money. That doesn't just stop. If you could stop it from all ends, then yeah, we could be fine. But it doesn't stop from all ends. People are saying, oh, it stops from the consumer side. Well, that has its own implications. So, I will bet my left nut that this goes on longer than June, and that the market is at least 1 point down from what it is today on a month from now. Like it.
Can we actually get a wager on this? Let's do something. Let's think of something quick. And it should be at like 3-1 odds, because I would say it's very likely it's gonna be, but you're overconfident. I'll do you like a
Okay,
three to
wait.
one
We have
odd
to we
bet
have to
to you.
write in though. We have to write in on this.
What do you
That
mean?
we have to write in on this is without a cure. Okay, this is contingent on not a cure at
See,
the
now
moment.
you're already changing what you're
Well, but you just
proposing.
told me that a cure doesn't matter. That's literally what you've been saying the whole time. That the market will rebound without a cure and will return to normal because it's
As
going to
long
take its
as
course.
long as the economy opens up before June. That's just my opinion. That's
Well,
why I don't think
I'm not gonna bet against a cure. If a cure happens, of course we rebound. We'll
I'm not
skyrocket the
talking
day.
about a cure. We're betting on the stock market where it is in May.
Well, then
May
my
2nd.
bet is contingent on no cure in that time frame.
I don't think there's ever going to be a cure.
Well, okay, then that's fair enough. Then let me write in that it's my opinion is contingent on if there's no cure. If there's a cure, a true cure announced tomorrow, we'll boom, and I'll be the first to acknowledge that. I mean,
This is
I
the first
agree with
time
you.
you're saying
I think
that.
a cure is a long shot, but
I don't know. I don't want to do like a monetary bet. I'd rather do some sort of like intellectual, like you have to run across the stream naked or something
I'll run
if you
across the
lose.
stream naked. I have an
Or don't.
OnlyFans, by the way. I'm trying to raise some money.
What was it?
No,
Juicy
don't.
Ben or something. What was the
Oh,
word?
no,
Oh
man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway,
Big boy Ben.
I don't
I mean,
know.
I'm passionate about this in the sense that, like, well, I think it goes down to the 40% number. It just pisses me off how people lived. And I just have this fear and sadness for a lot of people that are really going to get screwed over by this. Even on the good side, people will get screwed over by this. So it's just bad. And I think we come out of this a very changed country and a very changed world. Um, just on general things like, globalization, your ties to certain country. You can take it down to individual finance, individual hygiene. I mean,
Hygiene, yeah, that's
there's going to be
another
a
one.
lot of things that hopefully will change out of this, so we can avoid it in the future. But
I feel like this is gonna be like once a decade thing now.
well, yeah, I don't know what the true time frame. I mean, aren't our recession cycles kind of one a decade, anyways, or no?
I'm talking a pandemic.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. That's just
Well,
dumb speculation.
this
But
wouldn't
I'm
be a
thinking like
pan
H1N1 and then SARS and all that. Like I'm
SARS,
just
yeah.
thinking that type of stuff with
What's
social
funny is,
media.
and this again, this has been driven a lot by social media, and I think we've talked about this before, but I guess I was 10 years old when SARS was a big thing, and a lot of people died from SARS. I don't even think I heard about it once at the
I thought
time,
SARS was
nor
in
was anybody
'03.
concerned. No, I think SARS was. Oh, you're right. I'm thinking of was it swine flu in
Swine
'09?
flu. That's H1N1. Yeah, we were like
That
10.
one
I was
that
like
one killed
12
like
during it.
100,000 people or something worldwide, which
Oh yeah.
that's a lot of people because I think we're at 50,000 worldwide right now.
So
Um,
like nothing. It's insane.
well, it is so like nothing, but the problem is when you're not forewarned, because a lot of those deaths aren't even necessarily people dying from the virus. It's dying because of lack of hospital space, lack of people to treat them, lack of machines like ventilators. Um, And again, if China says, "Hey, world, you need to stockpile now, be building hospitals, have emergency prep plans, be wearing masks, everybody, you shouldn't be flying, shouldn't be traveling in other countries," we'd see like there'd be like 200 cases in the U.S. right now compared to what we have. So it's sick what China did over this, and sadly, I don't think any country is going to hold China accountable like they should be. But
Well, they're China as well.
yeah,
I feel like they possess so much power. We
well,
shouldn't get into that, but
they literally own the treasury of all of the first world economies. So
isn't that so crazy?
it's disgusting that
They're
countries let it
geniuses.
happen.
Yeah.
They are geniuses. It's disgusting. They think their leadership's mindset is always thinking for generations ahead. How can we give them power? And it's actually I mean, that's not a bad thing if it's done the right way, but their power is more of a ruling power rather than a. Because if you said, hey, we want to set our country up so we're still as powerful 100 years from now, right? And say maybe less debt, more leverage on things, that's fine. But theirs is how can we take over the world 100 years from now? And that's very sick. And
Hmm.
the one lady, I think you watched that Rogan podcast I talked about, but her thing was like, if the free world doesn't change China, China will change the free world. If we go to war with any country in the next 100 years, if we have a World War III, it will be with China. It will be centered around China.
But
Um,
war will be so different than like there's
War
not gonna
will
be
be
like
different.
troops. I mean, there will be,
There
but
will be. It depends how far out. I mean, China right now leads drone technology, which is disgusting. They have these micro drones, which are essentially people have described them like smaller than a hummingbird, and they're pretty much undetectable, especially at night. They don't make noise, and they load them with C4, and it's an instant hit piece on anywhere they want.
it's like a
And
RCX
like
30.
any sort of radar technology, apparently, as of like a year ago, couldn't pick them up. I know the U.S. has heavily invested in drone defense in the last year, probably because of that news. But it's very sick, and they go fast too. And they're completely autonomous as well. It's not somebody piloting these. They literally lock onto a target and can just when they're so small like that, they can get through anything. They can get in buildings to get right to a target and just kill somebody on the spot.
Hornets.
It's just disgusting. But that's the future. That's really flipping scary. Drones being used for evil.
Be fun to watch.
I have a stupid idea about drones, but like this is what Amazon should be doing, right? Because it's such a dumb idea, but it's something that in the future we'll have something. I don't know. I think in the future our waste will somehow be in space, for one. Any production will be in space. That say something that deals with uranium, it will be done in some sort of space station to keep it away from the Earth. Um, Long term, well, okay. Here's the thing. I guess I gotta clarify this first. I'm a Christian. I don't think the world is ending soon. If I'm definitely not talking about the coronavirus. I just mean, Revelation. I think we have plenty of time before Revelation's happening. Um, I truly believe God created such a vast universe that I, the Earth is only such a fraction of the universe. I find it so hard to believe that God would create so much for humans not to ever see any other planets. So I think there would be a lot in space, if you're talking thousands of years from now. But um, so I think waste, like imagine one, if waste, there was a good way to just shoot waste at a star somewhere. You just have a line go and just burns up in the star. It doesn't affect anything near here, right?
Hmm.
Two, okay, so the more real world application. It's such a stupid idea, but it just intrigues me. If you had drones that could just pick up trash, heavy duty trash, even big drones, just go to some sort of crack in the earth, because there's cracks in the earth that aren't volcanoes that go down super deep. You see lava. Just flipping drop it in the lava. Set up a very intense scrubbing system above that, so you can capture whatever toxic air is coming out and somehow clean it. That would be insane, dude. And if it was autonomous, where a drone literally comes and picks up your trash on the curb and just flies it somewhere, that would be crazy.
And
If somebody could really make a system like that, it
that's
would be
crazy. You should
insane.
set up a meeting with SpaceX.
So
That's crazy. I mean, I don't know any of the science behind dropping things in like
I
a
don't
crack in
either.
the earth,
Yeah,
but just the thought of like drones, just like even instead of garbage trucks, just like drones picking up your
yeah.
trash and like having
Well, the
somewhere to.
thing is too is I guess the implication by lava is that something could just burn up on impact, right? Or at least most things. If you're flipping 5,000 degree melted rock, it's gonna just melt. So obviously that releases because right now we don't burn trash because a lot of trash release chemicals into the air. So you would have to have definitely some big sort of because like they use scrubbers in coal plants in the pipes, I guess you could say, or what are they called? Chimneys, right? Chimneys.
Mhm.
You'd have to set up some sort of big thing over where the hole is to make sure you're capturing air and scrubbing it appropriately. And around that area, it would need to be somewhere that has just a ton of trees too to capture as much carbon as possible. But I'm telling you, man, if you're Bezos right now, he could get that done for 50 billion and then just like quadruple his net worth easily. If you could make a real system that was proven to work like that and never have to have landfills again, I mean, it'd be crazy. It is a stupid idea, but
You've
it's
ended these last two
I
podcasts.
just dream I just think about these just stupid dumb things like how the future should be. But
Yeah, the last two podcasts you've had like these weird ass like robots, the movie type things, and they're
robots
interesting.
the
I just
movie.
don't know how you think of that stuff, but
It just I
so
don't know. I think about waste a lot. If I could figure out a way tackle the waste problem right now. That'd be like my number one thing. But that's such a you have to have so much capital and you have to have so many people involved in that it's tough.
Hmm. Something to think about. I've been becoming more aware of that as well lately, but we kind of touched on it yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, this kind of just became the economics episode.
Yeah. It had to be
That's all right
done.
though.
It had to be done. Now
We had to hash it
we
out.
could put our differences to rest and we could kind of put talking about coronavirus and the economy to rest.
I'm so sick of talking about
I am
coronavirus.
too. I mean, the market's been fun. I've learned a lot
Hmm.
playing the market in this time because it's probably the easiest time ever to whether you're actually just buying things or playing options. I mean, if you want to learn, there's so much volatility in the market right now that you could really benefit from it. So it's been an awesome learning experience. Obviously, for all the wrong reasons. I wish we were still where we were in January and none of this happened, but that's been one positive of this, I guess.
Oh, it's been a great. This is a great time in our life for this to happen and learn, just like on a like personal level and like where we're at.
Yeah,
Sucks that
yeah,
you're going to be entering the job market next year. That hopefully we're
yeah.
all recovered from that. But
I mean, all the robots out there, it's all the more reason to get in control of your finances now, and this is a great time to be reflecting and strategizing for when this is over. So,
build a skill, build a couple.
yeah,
Do you have a
make your
tweet for
own
me to look
brand.
at, or are we just gonna say the old one
I
liner and
might have a tweet. Let me look. I was not thinking about bringing a tweet, but
I wasn't either.
let me check real quick.
SARS 2003 was when SARS hit.
We already watched. Did I show you the Giannis video yet, or no?
Giannis Patella or Giannis Antetokounmpo?
Your boy, yeah, your Bucks boy.
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay, we'll watch this one. You've probably seen this clip, but it's still a funny clip. I'm gonna put it in here and then we'll watch it at the same time, so don't start it yet.
All right.
I'm not necessarily against Harden. I'm not like the biggest Harden fan. I think he's good. I think he's slightly overrated, but I just love this clip.
Oh, that was last year. I
That
think,
was
right?
fully intentional too. You already
I
know it
wonder.
was. It had to be, bro. It had to be. The angle on that toss,
Wow,
like he got beamed, man.
I love that.
I do love that.
I don't think that was going toward Brogdon in the corner. Like that
It
was definitely going
wasn't.
out of
Yeah.
the angle
No,
from where
but
he
the
threw it.
top comment on this tweet, dude, said Harden lives in his head rent free, like Lamau. That's so funny though.
That's so
This is
great.
what I want to do to Jim Cramer every morning when I wake up.
I watched him a couple of weeks ago, and it was like entertaining because I mean, I just like stocks and hearing about it in general, but he just has these whack takes on stocks, and he's like the ultimate speculator. I feel
Yeah.
like I don't think anything about what he does is fundamental. I
I
mean, that's an
refuse to listen to
exaggeration,
that
but
guy at this point. I think I've legitimately watched for like 5 minutes once, and I already knew I would never watch him again.
I thought the same way. And then I watched. I was like, he's not as bad as I thought, but I'm still not a fan. But
He's like, oh, Ford just hit 1 cent. Now's the time to put Ford. I mean, he misses the train every time. He encourages people to hop on way too late, no matter up or down. It's just
he told
bleh.
everyone to buy Domino's pizza today. Mom and pop
Did he
shops aren't
really?
cutting it.
Did he really?
Yeah,
He really did? Domino's
yeah,
Pizza?
yeah. It's like a $570 stock right now.
Is it seriously? Wow.
Its market cap is like 13 billion. Papa John's is only like 1.7
Yeah,
billion.
Papa John's has gotten destroyed ever since Papa left. They've
Our
cut their
boy
stock in
William
like half.
Shatner
You watched
got
that,
you know
right? That H3
a
podcast?
decent chunk of it. There's 10 things that go into a good pie.
I really like him. He's just a smart dude. I hope this
Ah,
lawsuit all clears and he clears his name because I genuinely believe his story.
mm,
Wait, you argue that he's a smart dude, or that
I'm not
he's
saying
a
he's not a smart
racist?
dude. He could be manipulative
He
and
could be
like just
manipulative,
getting
but
people on his side, but
I mean, people don't have any reason to like. I mean, what he already lost everything, so what's the point at this point not to believe him? At least in my opinion, he seems anything he's talked on, he seems legitimate to me. His CNBC interview where he was sweating was bad, but
I've
outside of
had
that,
40 pies in 30 days.
which he clarified that in the H3 podcast, and that meant he didn't eat them all, but he was ordering pizzas
Expected.
to do his 10 point. There's like a 12 point scale or whatever. Was it 12, 10 or 12 or the
So
perfect
funny.
pie? Because he wanted to know how the company was doing. And that's a true soldier right there. When he gets flipping booted out, he still cares about how their pizza is. That's a god.
Okay, here's the deal. If the market is up a point or more on May 2nd, you owe me a perfect pie from Papa John's. And if it ain't perfect, you gotta order me 40 pies in 30
No,
days.
no. Okay, I'll do the pie, sure, but this is contingent on. Write this in, and this is video proof right now. I am acknowledging the market will be completely fine if we have a true cure out by then. If we have no cure, which you said yourself, the market will respond fine even without a cure because you think it's going to take its course, which I agree with. I think this is going to take its course in the long run, but um, so this contingent on there's no cure. This is contingent on this just we're just letting it spread, right? So
Mm-hmm.
okay, fair
All right.
enough. I'll
It's
get you
on
Papa
camera.
John. I'll get you a flippin' Papadilla instead. That I always see the commercials for.
Let's rage.
How about that? Wait, what do I get though?
Um.
Didn't think
Okay.
about that
Well.
part, huh?
Okay. So we'll just hang out, and if you win, you buy the pizza.
Okay, okay,
Wait.
that's
If you
fine.
win, you
We'll
win.
we'll
You
bet a
buy the
pizza on
pizza.
this.
You lose. You buy the pizza, or I buy the. You know.
You win, you buy
Whatever.
it. You lose, you buy it. That
I
doesn't
was
sound like the
trying to
best
say
deal for
something
me.
like that,
Okay, but
but
what do we? Okay. I'm assuming. Like I was based this off the Dow. I mean, what do you want to do a
yeah,
specific index? Okay,
the
Dow. All
Dow.
right, yeah. All right,
Whatever. I mean,
yeah. You're
it'll be
on,
just the
buddy.
boys hanging out. That's if quarantine is over.
You're
But if
being
not,
buying me a nice fat papadilla, and I'm not even gonna share it with you.
yeah, you have to share with me if you win the
Okay,
bet
we're
because like this
sharing
is at
it.
least
All
a
right.
2-to-1 odd bet.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
all right, everyone. I'm
Remember this
Nick.
number. Remember this number. What did we close at today? Before we sign
Yeah,
off,
true.
we closed at 21,413. We're gonna be at 21,412 or lower on May 2nd, and I get a free pizza. It's gonna be very cool.
Papa John. Shout out
All
William
right. Well,
Shatner.
robots, this has been our complete uh, economy coronavirus wrap up. Hopefully, I don't want to be talking about this
Never
anytime
again.
soon. There's gonna be more developments, sadly, but we'll try to avoid this. We have some kind of pre-made topics in our head we want to cover in some future podcasts. So we'll hopefully get to kind of some more interesting stuff if you're not into the economy or the current situation. So Nick, any closing thoughts?
I got 2 words. Good night, robots.
Good night, robots. Everybody have a great night. Stay safe out there, and we will see you next Thursday. Bye bye.
Peace.